Hi guys, welcome back to another Matchbox Garage video. I'm Rob and today I shall be attempting to take this Corgi Toys Aston Martin DB5 from shabby to shiny. Now this one is part of a big Diecast build-off, just wonderfully named the Cannonball run, and it includes Fat Guy Productions, Go Bears, Diecast Workshop, Diecast Graveyard, of course myself, Outlaw Speed Shop, Jim Silver, and Devil's Details Diecast. So check out those channels for what they've also done. But from the movie, the Cannonball Run, which I've just been watching again this morning, it's just a wonderful movie, and just kind of really see this Aston Martin. I'm the only guy from my side of the pond, so you know it was. I had to, of course, take on James Bond's, or at least Roger Moore's DB5 from the movie, the Cannonball Run, not the James Bond films. Although, really, it's the same car. But anyway, we'll start by drilling down the centre of the posts, and there is just one on this car. Removing the flange and tapping that hole. Please do remember to lubricate the end of your piece. You do not want to snap it. But yeah, not much of a fast driver at the moment, this Aston Martin DB5. It needs quite a lot of work to be able to race across USA. And the Cannonball Run, now, not necessarily, I would love to do it, not necessarily in a record time, but just to drive across would be it certainly is a dream of mine. But yeah, this one this is the James Bond Aston Martin DB5 that Corgi brought out. Of course, we're not doing the James. It's not for James Bond today, but it is. If you watch the movie, there's so many references. It does have all the bits and pieces that the James Bond car has. So hey, why not? But yeah, as you can see, nothing is really working here at the moment. So we need to figure out what the problems are, try and fix them, and trying to get this back to good use again. Now, thankfully, the window section is nice and clean and tidy. Oh, we do have one working part here. Pushing that rear exhaust. But yeah, it does read James Bond, Aston Martin DB5. Corgi Toys, but yeah, perhaps we should just hide the James Bond bit just for this movie, the Cannonball Run. But what a beautiful car! It must be in the top 5 most iconic and beautiful cars ever made. Certainly one of my favourites. But yeah, let's just pull out the screw where I have already pre-drilled this one. And there's a lot of parts in this one. As you can imagine, you've got 3 separate mechanisms there, all working separately from each other. And just reaching for a screwdriver. This is still, even without that screw, it's still tight on that base. I believe it was overpainted 3 times. This was originally a gold car, but yeah, been painted several times. And yeah, look at this was not only to show you, but also a reference for myself. Whilst I record some of these intricate parts where a lot of parts are moving, I like to really detail, just so that I know I can put this thing back together. And I must admit, it was a little bit of a pig to put it back together, but we certainly got there in the end. A little bit of carpet there, probably. But yeah, not really knowing where to start, but just trying to figure out. Looks like a home for an animal at some point. I believe this actual casting was made somewhere in the mid-60s, so I think 1965, if I remember rightly. I think it was made around about the time that this car was made, the movie come out, you know, the original, which I believe was Goldfinger. I could be wrong. And I think that's probably why Corgi went with a gold coloured car rather than painting the silver. but we're going to go back to the original silver car today. So this is not a restoration to this car, but it's certainly a nod towards the original, and of course the car that was then used in the Cannonball run. We don't get to see all these kind of parts being used in the Cannonball run, but certainly the ejector seat, where Roger Moore himself was ejected out. But yeah, if you haven't seen the movie, or if you haven't seen it for a long time, it's still a fun watch today. So yeah, grab a copy and watch it. It's a perfect Sunday afternoon movie, and I think this Sunday that this video drops, I think I may watch it again. But we'll continue taking all these little bits and pieces off, having a little look at them. I've got a new camera, and I always use my phone camera, and I had a Huawei P20 Pro, and I've gone to the P30 Pro, but I don't know. I think I prefer my older camera. It's almost like the auto focus on this one is, I don't know, maybe it's something I've got to get used to. But yeah, this spring, and there's a couple of springs, I certainly do not want to be losing those. But this does have some overpaint on it, and I need to take that off and polish it up. But how many times over that, what is it, 50, 60 years, however old this is, how many times has that been pushed down, by children? I hope thousands. Little part there, I think I thought I broke it, but no, it just popped out, and will allow me for cleaning, and that'll pop back in later on. Got the driver here, which would have been Sean Connery from the original movie, but this is now Roger Moore, who I would say is my favourite Bond, Roger Moore. I've always said that. As a kid, I loved the James Bond movies. I've seen them all. I've seen them all multiple times, and I think they're all great. But I always used to say that Roger Moore was my favourite. But yeah, you can see here some of the overpaint. Like I say, it was originally a light gold, but there seems to be some kind of dark gold colour there. There's a cream and a white. So yeah, I think overpainted at least 3 times. And some overpaint on the window section here, which will easily come off later on. So just a few more, or a couple more bits here to come out, which is another spring that we must not lose, plus a kind of, I guess, the machine guns from the front there. On the base, we've got one set of wheels out. And you can see the kind of mechanism there just working. And then the mechanism there just moving backwards and forwards. Of course, that is for the ejector seat once it's in position. But we do have 3 little rollover posts here that we need to just remove the head from, so that we can pull off this plastic part to safely remove the rear axle and be able to paint the base. But here's all the bits and pieces and parts, and so many parts. I would say this, out of all the diecast cars, and how many have I restored now? Almost 300. This certainly had the most spare parts or different bits and pieces to make sure it goes back together again, and that's always a worry, you know, if you restore these or customize these over a longer period along with other cars, and try not to misplace them, because they're very expensive, these parts. But anyway, we'll give this a tablespoon of the caustic soda in my foot-long hot dog jar with boiling water. Of course, the boiling water is what's going to help us and help this caustic soda do its job, per some of the experiment videos I've done recently. I haven't put out too many videos in January. I've been working from home and from the Matchbox Garage kind of area, and to sit here all day working my day job, I just didn't really have the I guess the oomph to then, you know, have a bit of dinner, spend time with the family, and then come back up here again to work on these cars. So I took a bit of a break. But yeah, so there's Sean Connery now. Roger Moore, of course. We'll give him a little wash up, and come out looking good. All nice and clean and tidy. I won't be painting on this interior. We'll leave it in the original. But we do have a little bit of overpaint on this ejector seat here. So I start off by putting on the Green Stuff World paint remover, which seems to do pretty well on the plastics. You know, it doesn't damage them too much or at all. I guess if I left it in the solution overnight, it probably would eventually. I think it would probably turn it soft, but for what I do, for the smaller amount of time that I leave it on the plastics, it just softens up the paint, and then I'm able to remove it. But yeah, just first of all, just putting some of this remover on all the little paint spots, and then I'll work back around it, just gently taking off any overpaint. And then just a few minutes later, having rinsed it off as well, we've got the seat there nice and clean, and same again with the window section. And then I'll take the plastic polish and give this a good going over. I'll show you the kind of first run. I think I'll go over it 3 times. There we are, looking shiny already, and yeah, another 5 or so minutes, giving this a good going over. That's one piece ready for reassembly later on. Now you've got remember, there's at least the original paint plus 3 overpaints on this casting, so this looks like some kind of, I don't know, some dodgy peach milkshake perhaps. Sounds disgusting, doesn't it? But whoops, there's a couple of little bits in there that we're missing. There we go. The roof there and the rear window shield, but the base there coming up nice. 100% paint removal on there. You can just about see there the James Bond. And I'm going to polish this today rather than paint it. And then all these little extra bits, you know, all the kind of mechanisms, the arms, the bullets and the machine guns, etc, etc. I'll be polishing those as well. But would you believe, out of this whole thing, just that little roof section, for some reason the paint just stuck to it pretty good. So I'm just going to leave it in the paint remover from the Green Stuff World to one side whilst I kind of polish up the rest of everything else, and I'll get to that later. Pulling out the Dremel with the steel wire attachment. What I did notice at this point was all of those layers of paint did hide some pitting on this casting. And I can't get all the pitting out, but I do off camera with I started with an 800 grit and then a 1200 grit, trying you know, the best that I could with this, and it came out pretty good. We're using the black primer, and I went with 2 really good coats. Again, it was really to kind of help with some of the pitting, but it does dry, and it is a very thin primer, so I don't know whether it really done too much, but that was my intention for a good couple of coats, whereas normally I'll go with just the single. And then once we're dry, looks pretty mean in matte black, I think, but of course this car does need to be in silver. So we'll give it a good going over inside and out. I went with about 3 or 4 coats, I think. I finished up with some clear coat as well, of course. This metallic paint kind of finishes in a bit of a satin finish, so certainly needs the clear coat, as you can see here. But it is the following day and everything's now dry. Look how smooth that is. Beautiful. We've got a set of replacement tyres. Now this little fella was so expensive. Oh, we're missing those wheels. Look, they roll better now. I would say you could buy this casting twice before you can get hold of one of these. This is an original bad guy or baddie, so this is not some repro. Yeah, an original baddie for this one. Cost me a lot of money, but you know, of course I needed it. I wanted it for this build off, for this casting, so it was worthwhile. But I've got to now figure out how to put all this back together. Some of the parts here, as you can see, I've polished, so there's no chrome paint, it's just being polished. So I'm going to start the putting it back together. Now normally I would do this off camera, but there's quite a lot going on here, but it also took me quite a long time, so I shall speed up the process. But at least you can kind of see it going back together. Bearing in mind it had been a few days since I'd taken this apart, and I was trying to figure out, you know, I had no instructions to on what goes where and what should go first, but I was just trying to figure out and remember what I did to put this all back together again. as you remember, I just kind of took just the head or the roll over part for me to be able to pull off this plastic, and it does kind of pop back into place, but you know, I'm sure if I was to push down on the casting once it all went back together, it would just pop straight back off. So I use this UV glue to and then of course you put the little blue light on there, the little UV light, and it does dry solid. It's not the greatest, but for this application it certainly does the job. Trying to figure out, this was probably the most difficult, just to get this seat back in, because there's a little spring, you see. So it wasn't only just getting the seat back into position and the baddie positioned, but it was to, you know, put the spring in the right position so that, of course, when you lock it down, when the mechanism kind of spreads the two plastic pieces apart, and it fires the little chap out of the roof. But yeah, we're nearly there now, and I can't lie, I did have to take it apart one more time. Something just wasn't working, but ultimately it was just one little. What I should have done is underneath kind of hold the casting to the side so that the mechanisms were just to the left, whereas when I put them on they were in. Hard to explain really, but things were falling out. But this is ultimately how it does go back together. And I shall hold off before showing the final. So here's a little reminder of what she looked like. What a mess. And this is the result. So yeah, we have the tyres now in position. My camera finally focusing. You can see the mechanisms underneath there. The front for the kind of missiles or machine guns at the front. That larger one for the roof. And of course the exhaust tips around the back for that rear window shield. But yeah, we painted in some tail lights, a little black in the rear number plate section. And there's Roger Moore stroke Sean Connery from James Bond, or the Cannonball run. But yeah, I hope you like this one, guys. Please do remember to check out Fat Guy Productions, Go Bears Diecast Workshop, Diecast Graveyard, Outlaw Speed Shop, Jim Silver, and Devil's Details Diecast. What a mouthful. All of that lot is. The Cannonball Run, great movie. Check it out if you haven't. And yeah, big thanks to my patrons there. I'll stick around actually, because I'm just going to go through now the mechanisms working. But there you go. Certainly moving across the desk much faster than it did at the beginning of this video. So you've got the front mechanism there, look, working now. The rear one working, looking nice and clean and tidy. And yeah, this little fella, there he goes. You see how kind of, I don't know, what a velocity that little chap come out. I would say, without putting my hand in the way, this little dude is going to fly 6 foot across the room. No wonder all of these were lost. There you go. But anyway, cheers guys. Hope you like it. I'll throw this bad guy to the side. But yeah, I'll see you soon.